अरिहंत सिद्ध सुर उपाध्याय साधु सर्व अर्थ के प्रकाशी मांगलिक उपकारी है। तीन को स्वरूप जानी रागते भई जो भक्ति काय को नमाय स्तुति को उच्चारी है। धन्य धन्य तुम से काज सब आज भयो कर जोरी बारंबार वंदना हमारी है। मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहते हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। So today we are going to start Nai Chakra, Nai Chakra guide. So basically the original book that was there earlier in the syllabus was Param Bhav Prakashak Nai Chakra, right? And then this book has been made by Dr. Shuddhatmaji Prabhaji Tadeya, Swanubhutiji's mother. She has specially made this for Paramagam honors. So earlier we were directly studying from Nai Chakra guide selected portion, and that all selected portion has been edited and modified and included here. So this makes a very good interesting reading, because whatever we require for our purpose, that is all included in this. So it's a very small book, but nevertheless it is very important. Earlier also we have read about real point of view and conventional point of view. We have covered there in Vitrag Vigyan and then in some other class also. So you are well aware of the 4 divisions of conventional viewpoint and 4 divisions of real viewpoint. So that is the main part of this textbook. But nevertheless, the introductory discussion is also very important, because the whole Jinvani is written in the form of Nai, viewpoint. So each and every statement of Jinvani pertains to a viewpoint. And without understanding that viewpoint, we will not be able to understand the exact meaning of this statements of Jinvani, right? So Himali, I've made you a co-host. You can.
Yes, sir. I'm just
share.
studying.
Yeah. And Pratibhaji, you have got no books. You have taken a printout?
I got the printout from your
Okay.
PDF. Yeah,
Okay.
I got it.
Okay. Good.
Thanks.
सर मतलब
Yeah.
इसी किताब में है क्या सर ये जो
हाँ, एक ही किताब में चारों.
ओके ओके अच्छा
Second वाला, इसके बाद I have put it in sequence only.
अच्छा
So
ओके
first one was about Samadhi Maran.
जी जी
Then
जी
this is Nai Chakra guide.
ओके
Then we will have Panch Kalyanak.
ओके
And then ultimately Gunasthan. So this is all what we are going to study in this SAM.
Yeah.
Okay. So
थैंक यू सर
So the spiritual viewpoints are very important, because when we consider practicing discriminative knowledge, when we consider getting to the object of vision, the supreme viewpoint, the pure soul, then these spiritual viewpoints are helpful. Okay. We have another set of viewpoints called canonical viewpoints. Okay. Agam ke Nai. So that we will cover up in the next SEM. That is also coming up. That will be in the next SEM. But right now we are studying spiritual viewpoints. Okay. So spiritual viewpoints means Adhyatam ke Nai. Adhyatam means the one which specifically pertains to the soul is called Adhyatam. And the one which pertains to the 6 substances is called agam. Okay. So adhyatam and agam, you have to understand. So for total Jinwani is agam, and from that agam, you have to bring out the adhyatam, that is the pure soul. Okay. One minute. Yeah. First page itself. This diatrix also, let's go through this diatrix previous page, Himali. Some of the diatrics which are commonly used that we will understand. See, Hindi is A here. A is pronounced like the first A in avoid. Avoid. Okay. So it is more of a. A is not A, but A. The second is A. If there is a line above A, we have to pronounce it like A, like balm. Okay. Then small e is pronounced like I in bit. And then the big E is pronounced like I in liter. Okay. So if there is a line above it, the pronunciation changes slightly. Similarly, is oo, ow, re, ru, a, o, o. So these are some of the things that we should understand, so that when you are reading the Gatha or something from the Hindi part, okay, this will be helpful, where you have to pronounce A and where you have to pronounce A, all these matters much more when we are reading the English transliteration. Okay. So that also we have seen. More as you practice, you will come to know. So in these 2 pages, all the kinds of diacritics that we use in the textbook has been included. Okay. Internationally, these are all very well recognized, because to have a uniform kind of pronunciation, we need to have this diacritics in place. Okay. So that is also very important. Now we straightway head to the scripts. In Tattvar Sutra, we had read what are the tools for understanding the 7 fundamentals. Okay. Can anyone remember what are the tools to understand the 7 fundamental elements? In Tattvar Sutra, first chapter, it was given 3 kind of variations given. One for the lower category of seekers, the second was medium category, and the other one was upper category. So for the lower category, Acharya Umaswamy recommended 2 tools, Praman and Nay. Praman is comprehensive valid knowledge, and Nay is viewpoint or point of view. Okay. So my question is, this Praman and Nay only applies in right knowledge, Samyak Gyan. Okay. So if I have the right knowledge, then I very well know the 7 fundamentals, because without knowing the 7 fundamentals, I cannot have right knowledge. I cannot manifest right knowledge. Right. Now, having said that, so how does Uma Swamiji in Tattvar Sutra says that Praman and Nay are the tools to understand 7 fundamentals? Because one who has got right knowledge, he has already understood 7 fundamentals. That's why he has got a right knowledge. And Praman and Nay, comprehensive valid knowledge and viewpoint, both are part of right knowledge. Okay. In fact, Praman Gyan is called Samyak Gyan. Samyak Gyan Pramanam. Okay. So right knowledge is the valid knowledge. Right now. So how can we say that this Praman and Nay are the tools to understand 7 fundamentals? because praman and nay only applies to right knowledge, and person who has got right knowledge already have a right belief. He's already a right believer. So if he is a right believer, he knows very well the 7 fundamentals. Otherwise, how his belief will turn right? So there is a bit of controversy here. So anyone can think of a good answer. So why it is written like that? Uma Swami, why it is written like that? And what is the justification behind that?
So because
So,
we're moving towards right knowledge.
pardon?
So we're moving towards right knowledge. So we need
Very
the
good.
tools.
Well try, well try. Anyone else? Yeah, Madhuji.
सर क्वेश्चन वापस रिपीट कर सकते हैं सर?
देखो, तत्वार्थ सूत्र में कहा कि प्रमाण और नय से 7 तत्वों को जाना जाता है, संक्षिप्त रुचि वालों के लिए। मध्यम रुचि वालों के लिए और कुछ बताया, और उत्कृष्ट रुचि वालों के लिए और कुछ बताया। लेकिन जो एकदम जघन्य रुचि वाले हैं, सबसे कम रुचि वाले हैं, उनके लिए बोला प्रमाण और नय से 7 तत्वों को जानना। ठीक है, तो प्रमाण और नय तो सम्यक ज्ञान के अंश है,
जी।
और जिनको सम्यक ज्ञान है उनको 7 तत्व तो ऑलरेडी पता है। तो फिर ऐसा क्यों कहा कि प्रमाण और नय से 7 तत्व को जानना? ये क्वेश्चन। प्रतिभा जी, व्हाट वुड यू आंसर?
इट बिकम्स मोर इजी सर।
हाँ, मोर इजी, ओके। Hemali also replied on similar lines. Yeah, Pratibha ji.
Well, a Praman is the whole picture, and the point of
Yes.
view is the particular point that we're focusing on. So by
Right.
knowing this, it will lead
Hmm.
us to the soul, to realize the soul.
Yes.
So
Yes,
the
that
one
is
who
true.
already understood knows that, but we don't know. So we have to know this to get to that point to realize the soul.
Right. Very, very well said. So the logic is that even if we don't have right knowledge, but we are reading, we are understanding according to Jinwani. Right. So this is how we are going to manifest right knowledge. It is not that first you have to have the right knowledge, then only you can understand 7 fundamentals. It is not like that. Through the scriptures, although we don't have right knowledge, but the scripture says the right things. And if we align ourselves what is written in Jinvani, then our knowledge will also turn right. Right? That is the only way out. So although the Praman and Nay applies to a right believer only, but we also study through Praman and Nay only through the Jinvani. Okay. So Jinvani depicts everything what is right, and it has come to us through the Divya Dhvani, divine sound of the Tirthankar. Right. In that same lineage, we have got this Jinvani. So we are understanding Praman or Nay through this Jinvani. Okay, although we don't have right knowledge, but we are moving towards the right knowledge by understanding the statements written in Jinvani time and again, thinking about it, making decisions about it. Okay, and that's how our ignorant knowledge gradually moves towards the right knowledge. Okay, and we are about to manifest right knowledge. Before that, right belief happens, because once the belief turns right, the knowledge is termed as right. One moment ago you are a wrong believer, but your knowledge is absolutely right. You are comprehending things in the right sense. Okay, that is how you manifest right belief in the next moment. And the moment the right belief is manifested, your knowledge turns right, your conduct also turns right. Okay. So knowledge in itself is not right or wrong. It depends on the belief. So if your belief is right, knowledge is termed right. But before right belief also, the knowledge that you are acquiring through reading the Jinvani is almost right. Okay, we may not term it right, but it is still, as far as the understanding goes, it is absolutely right, because we are all reading Jinvani. According to Jinvani, we are allowing our mindset according to the Jinwani's instructions. Okay. So our knowledge also move towards the right, and once the belief turns right, the knowledge is termed as right. But before that also it is right. Like when we fought the battle for independence in India, 1947. Before that, Gandhiji started Quit India movement, Dandi March, all these things were happening, Sepoy Mutiny earlier to that. So we were in the process of getting independence. Okay. Although independence was much later achieved after 30, 40 years, but the movement started before. Similarly, our right knowledge will manifest at some point of time. But before that, we are progressing towards the right knowledge by reading through Jinwani. Okay. So you have understood the logic. So in every matter, we have to do consciously what is possible. We have to put efforts consciously. Okay. And the outcome will be according to the eligibility of the moment. Okay. बुद्धि पूर्वक पुरुषार्थ करना है और कार्य होगा योग्यता प्रमाण. This is the balance that we have to create, right? Without putting in efforts, if we say it will happen according to the eligibility of the moment, then we have not understood. So at our end, we will put all the efforts that is possible, right? And in spite of that, whatever happens, that we are going to accept because it is the eligibility of the moment. Okay. So if you are able to strike a balance between your efforts and the eligibility of the moment, okay, you are in equanimous state always. Okay. So this balance is a bit difficult to create, but nevertheless, that is only going to help us. We have no other options. Okay. So we read Jinwani day in, day out, contemplate about it, and then arrive at a decision. Decision making is the final process of putting in efforts. Beyond decision making, there is no effort. Everything else is a result of effort, starting from right belief, omniscience knowledge, liberation. All these are fruits of decision making. Okay. So when we read Jinwani, our decision making power increases. Okay. We go on to take right decisions at the right moment. Right now, you have many things in your life going on. Okay. But to spend time after Jinwani, keeping all the other things at hold and putting priority in your life about Jinwani is what going to bring what we can say, all the success in your day-to-day life. Okay. And in the spiritual life also, you are going to go ahead. If you are able to create this balance, then this is going to happen. So instead of working on the professional side that you are, maybe someone is doing business, someone is doing job, okay, someone is a housewife, whatever it is, right? To get success in that also, you need to read this Jinwani, because without auspicious karma, nothing happens outside. Nothing happens. Whatever we have received it, good things in life, that is because of our past auspicious karma. Okay. And when we read Jinwani, we bind highest level of auspicious karma. Those auspicious karma that are going to be conducive to our spiritual upliftment. Okay. Ambani has also got rise of auspicious karma, but that auspicious karma is of different category, right? It is bringing him all the comforts of life, but where is Jinwani? He has no access to this Jinwani. Okay. And we also have auspicious karma, rise of auspicious karma. That's why we are here under the influence of Jinwani, right? And we are trying to understand this Jinwani. So we can say we are having the highest level of rise of auspicious karma right now. Without that, we cannot have access to this kind of knowledge. And we are not only having access, we are seriously pursuing it. Okay. And over a period of time, we are going to be an expert, connoisseur. Hai na? So we are in a very, we can say, very interesting phase of our life cycle. This human life, that also getting a birth in a Jain family, and then not only getting a birth in a Jain family, we are have access to the right kind of knowledge. Kunkunda Acharya wrote this Samaisar 2000 years ago. Acharya Uma Swami wrote this Tattvad Sutra 1900 years ago. We are reading all this. So we are in the elite company of Acharyas, and those Acharyas have got knowledge directly from the lineage of Tirthankars. Okay. So overall, if you see, we are very well placed to get liberated, to stop this cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. And that too within a span of 3-5 years, 3 to 5 years, what you are going to put efforts in, and you are going to enjoy this for the rest of this life, no, for the rest of your journey. Okay. We are going to enjoy every moment and move towards liberation. We are moving towards liberation, but at the same time, in the present time also, we are enjoying our life by applying these principles, doctrines that we have studied in Jinnu Vani. Okay. So this much is the background. So to understand the nature of pure soul, to understand the nature of reality, these viewpoints are very, very necessary, because the entire Jinwani is written in the language of these viewpoints. Okay. In viewpoint, one thing is highlighted, other things are made secondary, not absence. Other things are not absent, it's there. But we are focusing, we are highlighting one part of that whole thing. The whole thing is comprehensive valid knowledge, and one of its part is viewpoint. Okay. Many times, many classes ago, I gave an example of video camera. A person entering an auditorium with a video camera in his hand. Okay. And the moment he enters, at a glance, he can see the audience, the speaker, the whole auditorium. This is called valid comprehensive knowledge. Then he focuses his video camera's lens on the preacher. Okay. And through his face reading, you can understand how serious he's talking about, how easy, how relaxed he is feeling. Okay. All this helps you to assess the kind of orator he is. Okay. So then you move the focus towards the audience. How the audience? Some of the audience are sleeping. That means the preacher is not able to engage the audience. Okay. But if you see, the audience are also very keen on understanding. They are absolutely focused on the speaker's speech, then you realize that, oh, the speaker is of very good quality. Okay. And then again, you come back and have overview again. So again, it is comprehensive valid knowledge. Okay. So comprehensive valid knowledge is the overall knowledge where nothing is secondary. Everything is primary. Okay. That is called comprehensive valid knowledge. Praman Gyan. And from that, we have to apply viewpoint. So what we'll do, from the whole thing, we will focus one part, one aspect of it. That is called viewpoint. So one time I will focus on, say, Pratibhaji. The next time I will focus on Hemali. The next time I will focus on Jia. Okay. So in this way, I would come to know the whole students who are right now in the class. Okay. So one at a time I am focusing, but when I combine all those viewpoints, I get the complete picture of the class. Okay. So similarly, viewpoints are just pertaining to a part of the total knowledge. Okay, that part is called viewpoint. So we keep on applying viewpoint, we know each part very clearly. Okay, and when we combine all the viewpoint, we get the comprehensive valid knowledge. So we have to learn this skill of applying viewpoint in any place to know that part very clearly and in a better manner. Okay, so this is the necessity of viewpoints. The whole Jinwani is written under in the languages of real point of view and conventional point of view, and we understand this viewpoint properly, we will be able to understand the essence of what is being said. Okay, so with this we start. Next page, Himali. Yeah, next. Yes. So this is from where we start. Spiritual viewpoints. Adhyatam ke nay. You see that above A there is diacritics. That means you have to pronounce A. Adhyatam. Okay. Adhyatam ke nay. Okay. So the first topic is the necessity of knowledge of viewpoint. Why we do need to understand this viewpoint? In fact, if I tell you this viewpoints, the spiritual viewpoints and the four exposition, these are the two important tools to understand Jinwani. Okay. If we don't have proper knowledge of these two things, then we will not able to understand the Jinwani in the right perspective. Okay. So understanding these two works as a software. Without software, the laptop is of no use. Okay, laptop is the hardware, but the software has to be installed in that, and that's how you operate the laptop. Similarly here, the viewpoint and the four exposition, the methodology of writing the scriptures, that has to be understood in the first place to capture the essence of these scriptures. Okay, so Gia, you read the necessity of knowledge of viewpoint.
The necessity of knowledge of viewpoint. Understanding the intended aspects of viewpoints is essential for the following reasons. 1. To understand Janagam. 2. For the true knowledge of the nature of an object.
Slowly.
3. For the correct, right knowledge of the soul, Atma. 4. For self-realization, Atmanubhav. 5. To escape worldly suffering. 6. For the eradication of wrong or false belief, Mithyatva. 7. To attain true happiness. Without understanding viewpoints, the essence of Janagam cannot be comprehended, because the entirety of Janagam is expressed in a language of viewpoints. Therefore, knowledge of viewpoints is necessary to grasp the essence of Janagam. Substance is a composite of infinite attributes with seemingly contradictory pairs of infinite properties, Dharma Yugal. An entity endowed with infinite properties can be known in entirety at the same instant, but it cannot be described together. The description of an entity with infinite attributes Gun and properties Dharma can only be done in parts. Such partial descriptions are done from a certain perspective. Describing perspective is what is called viewpoint. Hence, it is essential to understand viewpoints for the true knowledge of a substance. The destruction of worldly suffering and the attainment of true happiness are not possible without the eradication of false belief. The eradication of false belief is not possible without self-realization. Atmanubhav. The self-realization is not possible without the correct, right knowledge of the soul. The correct knowledge of the soul is obtained through viewpoints. Thus, the knowledge of viewpoints is essential for us. The use of
Stop. Right. So 7 points are there. The necessity to understand this viewpoint. Okay. Why it is necessary to have this knowledge of viewpoint. 7 points are given. So in the first paragraph, first point is explained. In the second paragraph, second point is explained. Then in the third paragraph, we have point number 3 to 7, all explained in that particular paragraph. Okay, so first point, to understand Jinagam. So first paragraph, first point. Without understanding viewpoints, the essence of Jinagam, okay, the essence of whole scriptures, Jaina scriptures, cannot be comprehended because the entirety of Jinagam is expressed in the language of viewpoints. Therefore, knowledge of viewpoint is necessary to grasp the essence of Jinagam. So this is first point all about. Now the second point, for the true knowledge of the nature of an object. Okay, if you want to know the true nature of an object, then also we have to apply this viewpoint. Okay, so that is about the second paragraph. Substance is a composite of infinite attributes and seemingly contradictory pairs of infinite properties. Okay, we have one, many, eternal, non-eternal, then sat, asat, then ek, anek, nitya, anitya, bhed, abhed, you know, so many couple of properties. Okay, pairs of properties. Okay, so some substance is a composite of infinite attributes and seemingly pairs of infinite properties. Seemingly pairs, okay, infinite properties. An entity endowed with infinite properties can be known in entirety at the same instant, can be known in the same instant, but it cannot be described together, because when we give the description, it is through speech, and in speech we have this limitation that we are able to talk about one thing, one perspective at a time, right? So it is not possible to describe everything at one moment. Okay, but to know everything in one moment, that is quite possible. Okay, an entity endowed with infinite properties can be known in the entirety at the same instant, but it cannot be described together. The description of an entity with infinite attributes and properties. Okay, attributes is gun and properties is dharma. Then there are two more words. One is swabhav, is nature, and then one is shakti. Shakti is power. So we have four words: attributes, properties, nature, and power. These four are synonymous at a gross level, but at a subtle level, each has got different meaning. Like attribute always have a modification, okay? But the properties called dharma, attributes means gun, properties mean dharma. So dharma don't have a modification, but they are always available in pairs, okay? Always in pairs. Then the third is nature. So nature is something which cannot be destroyed. Okay, it is always present. स्वभाव का कभी अभाव नहीं होता. Okay, so nature is always present. Okay, so gun, dharma, स्वभाव, and last is shakti. Shakti is power. Okay, शक्ति की व्यक्ति होती है, like सर्वज्ञत्व शक्ति, omniscience power. Okay, so it get manifested at the 13th stage directly, but we don't have a small part of omniscience knowledge right now. Either we have omniscience knowledge completely or we don't have omniscience knowledge at all. Okay, तो शक्ति की व्यक्ति होती है, so these powers are manifested directly. Okay, so we have four things, four synonymous at the gross level, but at a subtle level, these have little variations that I explained right now. So we are talking that an entity endowed with infinite properties can be known in entirety at the same instant, but it cannot be described together. The description of an entity with infinite attributes and properties can only be done in parts. Okay, Such partial description are done from a certain perspective. Describing perspective is what is called viewpoint. Hence, it is essential to understand viewpoints for the true knowledge of a substance. Okay. So second point is covered here. Now 3 to 7. For the correct knowledge of the soul, for self-realization, to escape worldly suffering, for the eradication of false belief, to attain true happiness. All these 5 are different statements, but it happens all simultaneously. Okay, the action takes place simultaneously, but it has been interpreted in 5 different ways. The moment you have the correct knowledge of the soul, that is the moment you have self-realization, that is the moment you get rid of false belief, that is the moment you escape from worldly suffering, and that is what true happiness is. So one action, but 5 different headings. Okay, so that is all covered up in the third paragraph, 3 to 7. Point number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The destruction of worldly suffering and the attainment of true happiness are not possible without the eradication of false belief. Okay, the destruction of worldly suffering and the attainment of true happiness are not possible without the eradication of false belief. Okay, so true happiness, eradication of false belief, and destruction of worldly suffering all happen simultaneously. The eradication of false belief is not possible without self-realization. So this is the fourth point coming in that. The self-realization is not possible without the correct knowledge of the soul. That is the fifth point. So all 5 points packed together in the last paragraph. The correct knowledge of the soul is obtained through viewpoint. Thus, the knowledge of viewpoint is essential for us. Okay. So now you have understood what is the necessity of knowledge of viewpoint. Very nicely explained across 7 points. Okay. Now, the use of perspective or the viewpoints in everyday life. That is
Sir.
our next topic. Yeah.
सर जस्ट इंक्विजिटिव, तो जो वाणी खिरती है तीर्थंकरों की, तो दे आल्सो मस्ट बी एक्सप्लेनिंग वन थिंग एट अ टाइम.
Yeah.
है ना?
But their speech is not coming out from the mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their speech is coming throughout the body. Okay. So and all the individuals who are there in the Samosaran, the holy assembly, they all understand in their own language.
Yeah.
Even the subhuman state, lion, cow,
Right.
horse, everything, each and every animal, all the animals who have got mind, those animals with mind are there in the Samosaran, and they all understand in their own language. Okay. So the omniscience knows everything simultaneously, and whatever it depicts, okay, the people who are there in the Samosaran, all souls, the celestial beings, the subhuman state, the humans, and among the humans, the Sravak, Shravika, monks, okay, Arjika, all understand in their own language. If somebody is Tamil, he will understand in Tamil language. If somebody is Gujarati, he will understand in Gujarati language. So each and every individual understands in his own language, which is aware of. Okay. So that is the uniqueness of this divine sound. That's why it is called divine sound, Divya Dvani. Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
So Madhuji, you read the use of perspective in everyday life.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We use reference apeksha in everyday life. For example, when we say the sugar container or Pappu's bed, here the container might be made of plastic or steel, and the bed might be made of wood. However, based on their usage, we refer to them as the sugar container or Pappu's bed. Without understanding context, daily interactions cannot proceed. In this way, we see that despite using a reference, most people do not understand the form and nature of viewpoints or their distinctions. This is because, apart from Jain philosophy, no other philosophy in the world discusses viewpoints, whereas Jain Agam extensively illuminates the form and various distinctions of viewpoints. The general form of viewpoint. A viewpoint that separates a substance into its various inherent natures and establishes it in one specific nature is called viewpoint. Alternatively, that which conveys an aspect of an entity without denying the other aspects is called viewpoint. In certain places, the intentions of scriptural knowledge, Shrudgyan, the intention of the knower, and the intention of the speaker are referred to as viewpoint. All entities in the world possess both general and specific characteristics. These entities with general and specific characteristics are the subject of valid, comprehensive knowledge, Raman, or true knowledge. The knowledge that correctly understands these entities is comprehensive knowledge, and viewpoint is one part, Ikadish, of comprehensive knowledge. The subject matter of comprehensive knowledge is the complete entity, whereas the subject matter of viewpoint is a part of the entity. As the viewpoints express only a part of an object, their scope is limited to a particular aspect of the object. Since the viewpoints describe only one aspect of the object, their statements are with relative reference, sapeksha, and not unrelated, nirapeksha. While using viewpoints to make a statement, if the intended condition or specific context is not acknowledged, the information about a part of the object might be misconstrued as information, but the whole object, which would not be true. For instance, if we say that an elephant is like a pillar, this statement is correct in relation to its leg because an elephant's leg is like a pillar. However, if this statement is made about the entire elephant without specifying the context, it would not be correct. Similarly, if we say that the soul is impermanent, the statement is true in the context of its mode, Paryay. But if it is understood as a statement about the soul as a whole entity that comprises of both substance, Davya, and mode, Paryay, it would not be true, as the entity with substance and mode is both permanent as well as impermanent. Nitya, 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 nityamaka. That is
Nitya
why.
Anityatmak.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So from the
Thank you.
substance viewpoint, it is Nitya. From the modification viewpoint, it is Anitya. So the whole thing put together is Nitya Anityatmak.
Nitya, right. Yes, sir. Nitya, anitya, anityatma. Thank you,
Ah.
sir. That is why only the relative reference viewpoint, Sapeksha Nyay, is called the right viewpoint, Samyak Nyay, and Nyay, not unrelated reference viewpoint, Nirapeksha Nyay. The unrelated reference viewpoints are false, Mithya, and are called wrong viewpoints, Durnay. Only the right viewpoints are true viewpoints, and they belong only to the knowledgeable Jnani, not to the ignorant. The viewpoints of the ignorant are not true viewpoints. They are only pseudo viewpoints, Nyay Bhasha. Nyay Bhas. When an enlightened speaker, knowing a multifaceted entity in totality, chooses to discuss one property, dharma, out of the infinite that it possesses, that property becomes primary in the statement, while other properties become secondary. This primary and secondary differentiation is not due to the inherent attributes or properties present in the entity, but are according to the speaker's intention and purpose. The distinctions of primary, secondary, mukhyata, gunat, gonat, mukhyata, gonat,
Gaunta.
acha, mukhyata, gonta, and intent, non-intent, vivaksa,
Avivaksha. Vivaksha, Avivaksha.
vivaksha, aviksha are characteristics of speech, not of the object itself. In the object, All attributes and properties always exist equally. The speech lacks the capability to describe all of them simultaneously, which is why the distinction of primary and secondary arises in speech. The primary property under consideration is called the intended property. I'm not reading that, it's wasting time. And the secondary property, which is not under consideration, is called the non-intended property. In the statements of the viewpoints, the non-intended properties are not denied, but are simply left unmentioned. Remaining silent about the non-intended properties, not saying anything about them, is what makes them secondary. Denial of non-intended properties is called pseudo-viewpoints. The viewpoints that fundamentally help understand and explain the nature of the soul are called spiritual viewpoints. In Jain philosophy, primary spiritual viewpoints are broadly classified into following two categories. One, conventional viewpoints, and two, real viewpoints. An object has both general and specific characteristics, and it is understood by dividing it into these two aspects. Among these, the real viewpoint takes the general aspect as its subject, and the conventional viewpoint takes the specific aspect as its subject.
Hmm.
Continue,
Stop,
sir.
stop.
Thank you.
So you see, we have in our everyday day-to-day use life, we are using this perspective. Although we may not name it, but we are using it, like Pappu's bed. Now bed is made of wood, but we say Pappu's bed. So this is again a conventional statement. Okay. Then the other example that was given, sugar container. Okay. So the container is made of plastic or glass, but we say sugar container because the sugar is kept in that. Okay. So similar kind of use, we are very well accustomed and we never question anything in those cases because we very well know what the intention is of saying. Okay. So when we say Pappu's bed, we know that bed is made of wood. But since Pappu is occupying it, we say Pappu's bed. Okay. So all this, we have been using it only when it comes to Jain philosophy or when it comes to understand the spirituality. Okay. We don't understand it. Okay. So that's a tragedy. In this way, we see that despite using a reference, most people do not understand the form and nature of viewpoints or their distinction. This is because apart from Jain philosophy, no other philosophy in the world discusses viewpoints. Okay. So in the second paragraph itself, in the composite whole substance, there are two different properties. Okay. And both properties seems to be in opposite nature, but in reality they are not opposite. Okay. Like nitya, anitya. Nitya means eternal and anitya means non-eternal. Okay. So eternal and non-eternal both are the properties of the same substance. They both exist in the substance at the same time. There is no denying about that. But having said that, if I want to explain the substance as eternal, I have to use a viewpoint. Okay. So one of the viewpoints that is used to explain the eternal is real viewpoint. Okay. From real point of view, the substance is eternal. And from the modification point of view, that is conventional point of view, the substance is non-eternal because the modification keeps on changing every moment. Okay. So it is not eternal, it is momentary. Okay. So to explain these two opposite nature of properties, we have to use viewpoint. So no other philosophies have these viewpoints. So all the other in India, there are 9 major philosophies. Okay. If you want to have the names, I can. In Samaisar, Gatha number 39 to 43. Okay. All these names are given and each has a belief of his own. Okay. And they falter somewhere or the other. Okay. So that's why nothing is proven in those 8 philosophies, religion. Okay. If they say something here, then something contradictory will come somewhere later. But in Jinwani, there is no contradiction because everything is being said from a perspective. If the soul is said to be eternal, it is from a perspective. If the soul is said to be non-eternal, it is again from the perspective. So if you understand from that perspective, the substance is like that only. The example given was now here was about the elephant. If I say that the elephant is like a trunk, if it is khambe jaisa, what we call it's like a pillar. Elephant is like a pillar. If I say, then it's a wrong statement. But if I say elephant's leg is like a pillar, then it is a correct statement. Okay. So you know the elephant's leg is like a pillar, then elephant's trunk is like a tree, and then we have elephant's teeth like something else. Okay. So then we get a complete picture of the elephant, right? So the thing that is being said of the part is not the entire substance, is not the entire thing. It is only a part. From that perspective, it is correct. So when you know all the perspectives, you have a clear picture of the elephant. Its tail is like this, its stomach is like this. Okay. So then you can identify, oh, this is elephant, right? So similarly, everything is being said from a perspective. That is the uniqueness of Jainism. Okay. So now we want to understand that 39 to 43. No? I'll tell you the 8 philosophies that exist in India at that point of time when Kundkund Acharya they wrote this Samay Sar. Okay. So one sect's belief that soul is Adhyavasan. Adhyavasan means alien disposition with wrong belief. What is a soul? Soul is a alien disposition with wrong belief. That is one of the philosophies. Vedanti believes like that. Then Mimamsak believes that the psychic karma is soul. Then Sankhya believes that the offsprings of the Adhyavasan are soul. Then Yog believes that the body itself is soul. Okay. Then then Nyayik believes that the auspicious and inauspicious sentiments is soul. Then Vaisheshik believes that happiness and sorrow, the results of the karma, is soul. Then Charvak believes that soul and karma are together. Okay. And then we have last one, which was, okay, I missed the Bodh in between. So you can change the sequence. Bodh, Nyayik, Vaisheshik, then Charvak. Charvak believes that the soul is the association of karma. So all these 8 philosophies understands it differently. Presume soul to be like that, but in reality, soul is not like that. Soul is entirely different from all these. Okay. In the next verse, 44 number verse in Samaysar, Acharya Kunkundev says all these 8 are matter substance. And soul is distinct from this matter substance. So you see the Jain philosophy is entirely different from all philosophies. And the only reference for this difference is just because we have viewpoints. By applying viewpoint, we can know the true nature of the substance. So our knowledge also becomes right. Okay. They have their contradictions among them only, right? But here we don't have any contradictions because it is all come from the Tirthankar's Divya Dvani, and this Divya Dvani is being said in the language of these viewpoints. Okay. So this is covered. Now, a viewpoint that separates a substance into its various inherent natures and establishes it in one specific nature is called a viewpoint. One specific nature, okay? Alternatively, that which conveys an aspect of an entity without denying the other aspects. Without denying, the other aspects are there. But right now we are not talking about other aspects. We are highlighting one aspect of it. Okay. The other aspects simultaneously exist, but we are not making any comments on that. Okay. Because the speech has got limitation. It can describe one aspect at a time. Right? In certain places, the intentions of scriptural knowledge, the intention of the knower, and the intention of the speaker are referred to as viewpoints. Okay. So to make you understand one attribute or one property, there is a viewpoint. So soul has got infinite properties. So there could be infinite viewpoints. Okay. All entities in the world possesses both general and specific characteristics. The entities with general and specific characteristics are the subject of valid comprehensive knowledge or true knowledge. The knowledge that correctly understands these entities is comprehensive knowledge. And viewpoint is one part of comprehensive knowledge. So viewpoint is one part of comprehensive knowledge. It is not the entire comprehensive knowledge. The subject matter of comprehensive knowledge is the complete entity, whereas the subject matter of viewpoint is a part of the entity. As the viewpoint expresses only a part of an object, their scope is limited to a particular aspect of the object. Since the viewpoint describe only one aspect of the object, their statements are with relative reference. Sapeksh Kathan, all the viewpoints are with relative reference because it is true from that perspective only. If you apply the other perspective, then it is not true. Okay. So the perspective from which it is being said, if you apply that perspective, then only the statement is true. And if the statement is true, then your understanding also becomes true. Otherwise, you always have doubt, perturbedness, and the indecision about the things. Okay. So these three are the blemishes of right knowledge. Okay. Doubt, perverse knowledge, and indecision. Sansay, Viparya, Anadyavasai. These three are the faults of right knowledge. So all the viewpoints discussed with relative reference, sapeksh, and not unrelated, nirpeksha. While using viewpoint to make a statement, if the intended condition or specific context is not acknowledged, the information about a part of the object might be misconstrued as information about the whole object, which would not be true. For instance, if we say that an elephant is like a pillar, this statement is correct in relation to its leg because an elephant is like a pillar. However, however, if this statement is made about the entire elephant without specifying the context, it would not be correct. Similarly, if we say that the soul is impermanent, this statement is true in the context of its mode, but it is understood as a statement about the soul as a whole entity that comprises of both substance and mode. It would not be true. And as the entity with substance are mode, and mode is both permanent as well as impermanent. That is why only the relative reference viewpoint, sapeksh nai, is called the right viewpoint. Not unrelated references viewpoint, nirpeksh naya. Okay, it is not the right viewpoint. The unrelated reference viewpoints are false and are called wrong viewpoints. Only the right viewpoints, yeah.
सर ये एक बार ये फॉल्स ऑफ राइट नॉलेज आप तीन बताए यू टोल्ड थ्री ना कैन यू टेल इट इन इंग्लिश वंस
What? Acha. So I told in English also, no? Sanshay, Sanshay is doubt.
हाँ डाउट
Then Viparya is perverse knowledge. Perverse
Ji.
knowledge means wrong knowledge.
Yes.
And third
हाँ.
one is Anadyavasai.
Anadyavasai.
That is
हाँ.
indecision.
Right.
Okay. So
Thank
these
you,
are
sir.
the three faults, three defects of a right knowledge. If three defects exist, then knowledge is not right. And if it is devoid of these three defects,
Hmm.
then only it is termed as a right knowledge.
Ji, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only the right viewpoints are true viewpoints, and they belong only to the knowledgeable Jnani, not to the ignorant. The viewpoints of the ignorant are not true viewpoints, they are only pseudo viewpoints, Naya Bhas. They don't have the right viewpoints. But we are understanding from the Jinvani, so whatever Jinvani has written is all correct. And if we align our knowledge according to the what is written in the Jinvani, then our knowledge will also become right. Okay. But if we apply our own logics and understand contrary to what is being said in the Jinvani, then our knowledge is not true knowledge, right knowledge. When an enlightened speaker, knowing a multifaceted entity in totality, chooses to discuss one property out of the infinite that it possesses, that property becomes primary in the statement, while other properties become secondary. This primary and secondary differentiation is not due to the inherent attributes or properties present in the entity, but are according to the speaker's intention and purpose. So if the speaker wants to highlight one thing, it will highlight one thing, right? The other things are secondary, but we are not denying that other things are not there. It is there. But right now we are talking of this thing which is primary. Everything else is secondary. The distinctions of primary, secondary, mukhyata, gaunta, okay, and intent, non-intent, vivaksha and avivaksha are characteristics of speech, not of the object itself. In the object, all attributes and properties always exist equally, simultaneously, together. There is no contradictions over there. Only while talking about it, we can talk one at a time. Okay. The speech lacks the capability to describe all of them simultaneously, which is why the distinction of primary and secondary arises in speech. So these viewpoints apply only in speech and knowledge. It does not apply to the substance. Okay. A substance is a substance itself. From the real point of view, it is like this. From the conventional viewpoint, it is like this. Papu's bed is a bed from the conventional viewpoint. From the real viewpoint, it is a wooden bed. But bed itself is bed. Bed itself is not real also and not conventional also. To say the wooden bed as Pappu's bed is a conventional statement, and to say a wooden bed as wooden bed is a real statement. Okay. So the conventional viewpoint and real viewpoint applies in all the objects. Okay. You can see that object from two viewpoints, one from the real viewpoint and one from the conventional viewpoint. Recently in the Samaisar that we are doing studies every Sunday, we discussed the verse number 6 and 7. And there we discussed two viewpoints. One from the real viewpoint, if you see, the soul is pure, right? Independent. And from the conventional viewpoint, if you see that same soul, it is having all kinds of passions and all kinds of alien disposition, temporary, right? So the moment you change the viewpoint, the picture changes. Okay. So when we practice discriminative knowledge, we have to change these channels. If the things are being said from the conventional viewpoint, if you want to understand the real viewpoint, then you have to change the channel. You have to change the perspective. how it looks from the real viewpoint, right? So by applying whatever is required at that point of time, you can know the correct nature of the substance. And that is the primary objective of understanding the viewpoint, because we want to have a clarity about the substance that is being explained. Okay. The primary property under consideration is called the intended property, Vivakshit Dharma, and the secondary property which is not under consideration is called the non-intended property. In the statement of the viewpoints, the non-intended properties are not denied, but are simply left unmentioned. Okay. Nothing is denied, everything exists. But right now we are talking of one aspect of the thing. At the same time, the other aspects are there, but we are not mentioning about it right now. That's all. Okay. So by understanding the aspect from which it is being said, we will understand that aspect. Then from the other aspects, what it is, we will understand. And when we mix up all those aspects, we have a complete picture of the whole entity. Okay. Remaining silent about the non-intended properties, not saying about anything them, is what makes them secondary. Okay. So one would be primary, others would be secondary. Okay. Denial of non-intended property is called pseudo viewpoints, naya bhas. So we don't deny. Okay. Okay. We don't deny that the property is like this from some other perspective. Okay. All the perspectives cannot be said at one point of time. So from one perspective would be said at a time, the other perspectives are there in the substance, but it is not being mentioned right now. Okay. So there is no denial as such. Only thing is that it is not being discussed. The viewpoint that fundamentally helps understand and explain the nature of the soul are called spiritual viewpoints. Okay. So the one which explains the nature of the soul are called spiritual viewpoints, and the one which explains the nature of the six substances are called canonical viewpoints. Agam ke nay. This is Adhyatam ke nay. That is called Agam ke nay. So we have a full paper on Agam ke nay in the 7th sem. Okay. In the coming sem, we will have a full paper. This is the 6th sem. So we have spiritual viewpoint. The whole Samaisar, in the whole Samaisar, these spiritual viewpoints are used. And in the Pravachans the canonical viewpoints are used. Okay. So when we talk of the six substances, the whole universe, then the canonical viewpoints are used. But when we want to discuss only the soul, then the spiritual viewpoints are used. So then it says that there are only two viewpoints, conventional and real. Okay. Out of which we are discussing now conventional viewpoints. Okay. Pratibhaji, you continue. Conventional viewpoint. व्यवहार नहीं.
Conventional viewpoints, व्यवहार नहीं. Various scriptures provide different descriptions of conventional viewpoint, some of which are, number one, that which to some extent makes distinction of figurative treatment, upchar, among the properties, dharma, of one substance is called the conventional viewpoint, व्यवहार नहीं. Number two, figurative exposition, upcharit nirupan, is called conventional व्यवहार. Number three, a dependent statement, parasrita kathan, is called conventional. For example, I am fat, I am thin. that whose topic of consideration is the distinct doer, action, etc. Karta, karam is the conventional viewpoint. For example, I see with my eyes. Number 5. To describe the state, bhav of one substance, dravya, as the state of another substance is the conventional viewpoint. For example, on seeing the association of ghee, calling a clay pot a ghee pot is a conventional statement. Number 6. To I think is it as describe maybe to ascribe the
ascribe.
modification. Yeah, it is ascribe, right? To ascribe
Yes.
the modification of one substance to another substance is the conventional viewpoint. For example, eating and drinking are modification of matter, but to say that they belong to the jiv is conventional. Number 7. The conventional viewpoint explains an entity by mixing one with another. For example, calling one's own substance swadravya of another substance pardravya or attributing dispositions related to them. In the same way, even in the casual relations, it describes one as mixed with another. For instance, calling a book the cause of knowledge. The conventional viewpoint presents its exposition by combining many substances, their modes and cause effect, and the like. Number 8. The conventional viewpoint deals with what is unreal. From the above discussion, the following conclusion can be drawn. Definition. The viewpoint which makes distinctions within one indivisible entity and establishes non-differentiation unity between two distinct entities is called the conventional viewpoint. Within the properties of a single entity, the conventional viewpoint makes to some extent distinction and figurative treatment, upchar. Function. The function of conventional viewpoint is to explain by making distinctions based in an undivided entity, impart knowledge about the association of different entities and also how these associations are instrumental in the resulting dispositions, separate the doer and deed, and establish a relation of doer and deed among different substances. Statement.
Stop.
The statements.
We'll see the statement later on. So there are 8 points in the conventional viewpoint. Okay. There is a comprehensive comparison coming up between real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint. And that's there are around 18 points over there. Okay.
Mhm.
So that will cover entire of conventional viewpoint and real viewpoint in a very nice manner. I'm so happy with that difference, It has covered all the points, okay? But right now we are understanding only conventional viewpoint and we don't mind if it is repeat again and again. And I would recommend all of you to remember those 18 points. I will add up 1 or 2 points more, but those 18 points that are given in the page number 7 or 8, it is in 9, 10, page number 10. Okay. Page number 10, the difference is given between real point and conventional viewpoint. There it's given in everything in detail. Okay. So that 18 points we have to learn by heart. Yesterday I was trying to learn it and I learned around 8 or 9 points, So if we keep on reading it again and again, and this is going to come as handy everywhere. Everywhere, if you want to practice descriptive knowledge, this distinctions between the real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint is going to help us, The moment you see something from a conventional viewpoint, it looks different. The moment you see the same thing from the real viewpoint, it looks different. So depending on the situation, you have to keep on switching the viewpoints. Okay. Because the ultimate objective is to manifest passionlessness. That means not to react. not to manifest attachment nor aversion. Okay. So you have to keep on switching the viewpoints. Okay. And by switching the viewpoints, you would be able to strike a balance. If you tilt towards left, you incline towards right. If you tilt towards right, you put the weightage towards left. That is how we balance, while riding a bicycle. Gia, you know how to ride a bicycle? So how do you learn to balance it out?
First you
Because,
use four wheels
Huh?
and then you switch to two. You try
Pardon?
to shift from left to the right.
So this is, once you have learned to strike a balance, now you are good. If you are inclining toward the left, you know how to get to the right, right? So this is how we have to learn these viewpoints absolutely by heart. Okay, conventional viewpoint and real viewpoint. Those 18 points are master key. Okay, so among those 18 points, these 8 points are written here, Vyavhar nahi, but we can include all the 18 points over here. Okay, that which to some extent makes distinctions or figurative treatment, okay, among the properties of one substance. Okay, figurative treatment means upchar. Okay, so upchar means that which is not real. If I say that this pot is of ghee, this is not a real statement because the pot is made of mud. But I say this is ghee ka ghada. Okay, this is a geese pot. So then it's a figurative statement. Figurative is something that is not true. Okay, but it is being said from a purpose because we want to highlight the Pappu's bed. So we say this is Pappu's bed, and you have understood this is Pappu's bed. But it doesn't mean that bed is made of Pappu. Pappu is a human being, and bed is made of wood. But we say Pappu's bed. So this is called that which to some extent makes distinctions or figurative treatment, upchar, among the properties of one substance is called conventional viewpoint. Number 2, figurative exposition, upcharit nirupan, is called conventional. Number 3, a dependent statement, parasrit kathan, is called conventional. For example, I am fat, I am thin, I am beautiful, I am ugly. Okay. So, who is ugly? Body is ugly or the soul is ugly?
Body.
Soul is ugly.
Huh?
Body is ugly, right? Soul
Yeah,
doesn't have
body.
body. Soul
Mhm.
doesn't have body.
Right.
So body is ugly, but we say that I am ugly, I am good looking. So all these are dependent statement. Okay. Parasrit kathan. So this is a third definition of conventional viewpoint. Fourth, that whose topic of consideration is the distinct doer action. Karta is different, karma is different. Okay. Is the conventional viewpoint. For example, I see with my eyes. Right. So I see with my eyes or I know by knowledge. Which is correct? Yeah, Pratibha ji?
I know my knowledge.
I know by knowledge. Because if I
No,
say
by
I
knowledge.
see by eyes, the dead body has an eye, but it cannot see.
Mhm.
Right? So these are
Yes,
all conventional
conventional.
statement. That whose topic of consideration is the distinct doer and action. So potter is the maker of the pot or the mud is the maker of pot?
Mud.
Mud. Okay. So if when we say that the distinct doer and action, so action is pot and doer is potter. So then it is a conventional statement because the doer is a different substance, potter, and action is a different substance, pot, right? Two different substance cannot have a doer did relationship from the real point of view. But from the conventional viewpoint, we can have a doer and did relationship. There is no contradiction about that. Fifth point, To describe the state means here the manifestation or the disposition. Okay. To describe the state or disposition of one substance as that the state of another substance is the conventional viewpoint. For example, on seeing the association of ghee called a clay pot, a ghee pot is a conventional statement. So here what we are doing to describe the state of one substance. So pot is a state of mud substance and we are saying is as the state of another substance, ghee pot, right? So this is an example of that. Number 6, to ascribe the modification of one substance to another substance is the conventional viewpoint. For example, eating and drinking are modification of matter, Pudgal, but to say that belong to the Jeev is conventional.
Conventional.
So the most beautiful definition of all is the 7th one. The conventional viewpoint explains an entity by mixing one with another. Okay. The moment you mix it, it becomes a conventional statement. For example, calling one's own substance of another substance or attributing disposition related to them. In the same way, even in a casual and causal relation, not casual, but causal,
Yes.
cause and effect relationship. Causal relations, it described one as mixed with another. For instance, calling a book the cause of knowledge. Okay. So book is a matter substance. Knowledge is an attribute of the soul, right? So we cannot mix with one another. Calling the book as the cause of knowledge is a conventional statement. So these kind of conventional statements are made. So we ask, where did you got this knowledge from? So we said, I studied that book and I got the knowledge. Very fine, conventionally. But actually your knowledge attribute has transformed in that manner at that point of time. Right? That is the real statement. The conventional viewpoint presents its exposition by combining many substances, their modes, and the cause and effect and the like. So mixing, whenever mixing is done, it becomes a conventional statement. The conventional viewpoint deals with what is unreal, unbhutarth, abhutarth, abhutarth. Abhutarth means unreal. Unreal means which does not exist in that substance is unreal. Okay. So to say the body as a jeev is a unreal statement. Okay. Because body and soul are two different entities. And to say the body as a soul is a unreal statement. Why it is an unreal? Because the body does not exist in the entity of the soul. Body is different from the soul, right? From the above discussion, the following conclusions can be drawn. The viewpoint which makes distinctions within one indivisible entity. So what conventional statements say, conventional statement does is, one indivisible entity, it divides into many. Okay.
Many.
The viewpoint which makes distinctions within one indivisible entity and establishes unity between two distinct entities. So one entity divide into two different entity combined into one. Both are conventional. Okay. The viewpoint which makes distinctions within one indivisible entity and establishes different unity between two distinct entities is called the conventional viewpoint. Within the properties of a single entity, the conventional viewpoint makes within the properties of a single entity, the conventional viewpoint makes to some extent distinction and figurative treatment. Okay. Within single entity, it divides it and it makes a distinction and figurative treatment. Function. The function of conventional viewpoint is to explain by making distinctions in an undivided entity, impart knowledge about the association of different entities and also how these associations are instrumental in the resulting disposition. Third one, separate the doer and deed and establishes a relation of doer and deed among different substances. Okay, all these are functions of conventional viewpoint. It will divide an undivided entity. It will bring together two different substances as one. All these are functions of conventional statement. Like body and soul put together is human. So when we say human, that means there are two entities in it. One is soul and one is body. Both put together is a human. So this is a conventional statement. Now, statement. How is the conventional statement? And then we will come through the real and unreal statements. Okay, continue. Himali. Himali is there?
Yes,
Yeah.
statements. The statements of the conventional viewpoint are dependent statements. Parasvita. Relative
Parasvi.
statements. Relative statements, sapeksh, and therefore figurative statements. Upacharita. Statements of unity made in relation to two substances are figurative statements. For example, describing the mode, how, of one substance as that of another, describing the modification, paririkhi, of one substance as that of another, describing the combined modification of two substances as belonging to one substance, or making statements by mixing together cause and effect of two substances. All these are figurative statements, and they are statements of the conventional viewpoint. The real, bhutal, and the unreal, abhutal statement of the conventional viewpoint are relative statements made for practical purposes and are dependent statements. Therefore, they are, to some extent, real and truthful, and to some extent, unreal, untruthful. However, they are not entirely unreal because the distinctions in and associations that are the subject matter of conventional viewpoints do exist from their own perspective. Hence, from the perspective of the subject matter, the conventional viewpoint is to some extent real. However, self-realization does not happen when one relies on these distinctions and associations. Hence, the conventional viewpoint is to some extent unreal. Alternatively, we may say the subject matter of conventional viewpoints does exist, making it somewhat real. However, it is not as desirable as real. So, it is also somewhat unreal. Or conventional viewpoint can be occasionally useful for some people, making it somewhat real, but since liberation cannot be attained through it, it is also somewhat unreal and false. Hence, the term untruthful is used in a secondary sense, not in the sense of absolute truth. Since the conventional viewpoint makes statements in terms of distinctions, and while the vision is focused on distinctions, the thoughtless, peaceful state, nirvikal, cannot exist. Therefore, the distinctions are purposefully treated as secondary and are called unreal, untruthful, or satya. For example, in the scriptures, the modes paryal are said to be untruthful. This does not mean that the modes do not exist at all. Rather, due to the primacy of real viewpoint, the modes are deemed as secondary and called convention to shift attention away from them, thus being termed untruthful or unreal. Why is the unreal conventional viewpoint presented at all? Here, the question arises that if a conventional viewpoint is considered to be untruthful, unreal, then why is it discussed in Jain texts at all? The contemplation on the multifaceted Atmakta, Anekan, Anekantatmaka,
Anekantatmak.
Anekantatma, reality of a substance and the resolution of disputes cannot be accomplished with just one viewpoint. Therefore, during the contemplation of reality, or when encountering disputes or doubts about any subject, the knowledge that arises from considering both viewpoints is deemed comprehensive knowledge. Hence, the elucidation of convention is necessary. Secondly, for the establishment of a path to spiritual liberation, fifth, conventional viewpoint is essential because their viewpoint is inexpressible, and in the process of imparting teachings, conventional viewpoint is paramount. Thirdly, without convention, in the initial stages, the all cannot be understood or explained. Just as a foreigner cannot be taught without using his language, similarly, without convention, the teachings of the all are impossible. Therefore, as a means to explain real, the presentation of the seemingly unreal convention has also been considered. Due to for say 3 reasons, the conventional viewpoint has been considered somewhat real.
Stop. Stop. So you see, where you started from statement, right? So what kind of statements do the conventional make? That has already been discussed earlier also, but we still repeat. The statement of the conventional viewpoints are dependent statement. That is one of the definition. Relative statement, sapeksh, and therefore figurative statement, upcharit. This is my father, this is my car, this is my house. Okay. So I am soul. House is a matter substance. So how can the house can be mine? When body is not mine, how the house can be mine? But these are all dependent statements. These are all relative statements. These are all figurative statements. Statements of unity made in relation to two substance are figurative statements. Okay. I am human. So this is again a statement of unity of two substance. One is body, one is soul. Then you say I am human. Then it's a figurative statement. For example, describing the mode of one substance as that of another. Okay. I am the doer of passions. This is again a conventional statement because passion arises because of the rise of karma. So actually the passions begins to the karma, belongs to the karma entity, right? But we say that I am manifesting passions. So then it becomes a conventional statement. Okay. For example, describing the mode of one substance as that of another. So mode was of the matter substance. Karma is a matter. But I said that soul does passions. So this is that statement. Describing the modification of one substance as that of another. Describing the combined modification of two substances as belonging to one substance. Okay. Or making statement by mixing together cause and effect of two substances. All these are figurative statement and they are the statement of the conventional viewpoint. Okay. So when I say that this is my house, this is my parents, this is my children, this is my grandchildren, all these are conventional statement. Then when I say this is my body, this is my karma, then also it is a conventional statement of the second category. Then when we come to the third category, I am manifesting anger, I am manifesting pride, I am the doer of deceit, I am the doer of greed. All these are third category of conventional statement. Then I am the doer of right belief, I am the doer of right knowledge. This is again a third category of conventional statement. Then fourth category of conventional statement, I am doer of omniscience knowledge. Okay. I have knowledge in myself. I have belief in myself. I have a conduct attribute in myself. Okay. All these are conventional statement because we are dividing one entity into two, right? So then again it becomes a conventional statement. So I discussed four categories of conventional statement. This we will discuss further when we refer that chart. Okay. But all these belongs to these examples. Okay. Considering one substance as of another substance, mixing, all these are those statements. The real and unreal statements of the conventional viewpoint are relative statement. Okay. It is not absolutely real. It is not absolutely unreal. Okay. Some statements are real from some perspective. Some statements are unreal from some other perspective. Okay. So these are relative statements. Statement of the conventional viewpoints are relative statements made for practical purposes and are dependent statement. Therefore, they are to some extent real and truthful. Why the conventional statements are real? Okay, because the conventional viewpoint are relative statement made for practical purposes and are dependent statements. Therefore, they are to some extent real and truthful, and to some extent unreal, untruthful. Okay, to some extent it is real, to some extent it is unreal, but it is neither absolute real, neither absolute unreal. Okay, so our all statements in Jinvani are from some extent real, some extent unreal. However, they are not entirely unreal because the distinctions and associations that are the subject matter of conventional viewpoint do exist from their own perspective. The distinctions, like I said, my knowledge, my belief, my conduct. So these distinctions are from some viewpoint do exist. Okay. So they are real from some viewpoint and unreal from some viewpoint. So when we see the indivisible soul, these are all distinctions are not there. Okay. Hence, from the perspective of the subject matter, the conventional viewpoint is to some extent real. However, self-realization does not happen when one relies on these distinctions and associations. Hence, the conventional viewpoint to some extent unreal. Okay. To some extent it is truth, to some extent it is untruth. It is not absolute truth, not absolute untruth. Okay. Alternatively, we may say the subject matter of conventional viewpoint does exist, making it somewhat real. Since it exists, it is called somewhat real. However, it is not as desirable as the real. Okay, it is not as desirable as the real. So it is also somewhat unreal. So conventional statement could be real also, could be unreal also, could be truth also, could be untruth also. Okay. Or conventional viewpoint can be occasionally useful for some people. Okay. As we read in Samay Sarg verse number 12, okay, that for those people who have not reached the omniscient stage, for them from fourth stage of spiritual development to 12th stage of spiritual statement. Okay. These conventional viewpoint are somewhat required, somewhat necessary. Okay. So it is not that all the conventional statement are absolute false. No. It is to some extent real, to some extent unreal. However, it is not as desirable as the real. so it is also somewhat unreal. Or conventional viewpoint can be occasionally useful for some people, making it somewhat real. But since liberation cannot be attained through it, it is also somewhat unreal. So you see, the statements keep on changing. At some perspective, it is unreal. At some perspective, it becomes real. Okay. So it keeps on changing. Depending on the context that we talk of, we have to figure out whether it is real or unreal. Okay. Here the term untruthful is used in a secondary sense, not in the sense of absolute untruth. Since the conventional viewpoint makes statement in terms of distinctions, and while the vision is focused on distinctions, the thoughtless peaceful state nirvikalp cannot exist. Okay. The moment we divide an entity, okay, the thoughtless state is no more there. We have thoughts, vikalp. Okay. Vikalp is conceptual thoughts. Conceptual thoughts keeps on rising. So when the conceptual thoughts are there, we don't have thoughtless peaceful state. Nirvikalpta cannot exist. Therefore, the distinctions are purposefully treated as secondary and are called unreal, untruthful. Okay. For example, in the scriptures, the modes are said to be untruthful. This does not mean that modes do not exist at all. Rather, due to the primacy of the real viewpoint, the modes are deemed as secondary and called convention to shift attention away from them, thus being termed untruthful or unreal. Okay. So now, if these conventional viewpoint are unreal, then why it is presented at all? Why can't we do things with real viewpoint only? If real viewpoint is absolute truth and it is something desirable, then why use the conventional statement at all? That is the question. In answer to that, there are three reasons given to that. Okay. The contemplation on the multifaceted reality of a substance and the resolution of disputes cannot be accomplished with just one viewpoint. Therefore, during the contemplation of reality or when encountering disputes or doubts about any subject, the knowledge that arises from considering both viewpoints is deemed comprehensive knowledge. Hence, the elucidation of convention is necessary. This is the first logic. Okay. Why conventional viewpoint is required? Because a multifaceted reality has many kind of properties, and to explain that properties, we need to use both viewpoints. So the soul is eternal from the real viewpoint and non-eternal from the conventional viewpoint. Okay. So both viewpoints are required to understand the comprehensive knowledge. Okay. So the elucidation of convention is necessary. This is the first logic. Second logic, for the establishment of a path to spiritual liberation, conventional viewpoint is essential because real viewpoint is inexpressible, nirvachaniya. Okay. So the real viewpoint is inexpressible, and in the process of imparting teachings, conventional viewpoint is paramount. Okay. So this is the second reason why conventional viewpoints is required. The thirdly, without convention in the initial stages, real cannot be understood or nor explained. Just as a foreigner cannot be taught without using his language, similarly, without convention, the teachings of real are impossible. Therefore, as a means to explain real, the presentation of the seemingly unreal conventional has been considered. Due to the aforementioned three reasons, the conventional viewpoint has been considered somewhat real, bhutarth. Okay. Why is the conventional viewpoint, next page, which explains real deemed unreal? Why is the conventional viewpoint which explains real deemed unreal? Conventional viewpoint is considered unreal because it is not directly useful to achieve our desired purpose. Himali, you have to change the page.
Yes, sir, I'll just do that.
Okay.
So sorry, I'm like, I have someone's come home.
Okay. Next. Yes, this one. Why is the conventional viewpoint which explains real deemed unreal? Okay. Conventional viewpoint is considered unreal because it is not directly useful to achieve our desired purpose. Okay. Conventional viewpoint can take us towards real viewpoint, but it cannot directly be useful to achieve our desired purpose. What is our desired purpose? To realize ourselves, to experience ourselves. So to experience ourselves, real viewpoint has to be used. Okay. So conventional cannot help us in solving this problem. Okay. The knowledge of external association and their resultant dispositions, which are the subject matter of conventional viewpoint, does not result in liberation. Therefore, since conventional viewpoint does not help achieve the purpose of liberation, it serves no purpose. Being unpurposeful, this viewpoint is considered somewhat unreal. Why is the real viewpoint explained through the unreal conventional viewpoint considered real? Real viewpoint is considered real because it directly leads to the desired outcome, the self-realization, the self-experience, the happiness. This is because liberation is attained through the refuge of the pure soul as understood by this viewpoint. Therefore, since real viewpoint directly achieves the purpose of liberation, it is considered real. Why the negation of conventional real viewpoint? Why the negation of conventional viewpoint? Okay. If we remain struck within the subject matter of propagation by convention, we will not be able to attain the subject of real. We will not experience the pure soul. If we want to cross the river, we have to board the boat. Okay. And when we reach the other side, we have to leave the boat. Okay. So similarly, the conventional viewpoint has to be negated at some point. At some point it is useful. But when we reach the destination, we have to get out of the boat to reach the destination. So it is negated at some point also. Because real is only attained after transacting convention. Hence, negation of convention is also essential for the attainment of real. Secondly, the result of the conventional viewpoint is worldly existence. Therefore, to attain liberation, the conventional viewpoint is negated. Okay. So why conventional point is negated? To logic. To get to the real viewpoint, we need to negate the conventional, that is the first point. And to get to the liberation, conventional has to be negated. Because conventional viewpoint is only explaining worldly existence. It is depicting the worldly existence. Okay. To get to liberation, we need to negate this conventional viewpoint and get to the real viewpoint. So now the question is, what relationship exists between the subject explained and the explainer? Pratipadya Pratipadak Sambandh. The relation between the subject explained and the explainer. Who is the explainer? Explainer is the conventional viewpoint. And what is being explained is the real viewpoint. Okay. So the relation between the real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint is of explained and the explainer, and the second relationship is the negated and the negator. Okay, we are considering both the discussion right now simultaneously. So the relation between the conventional viewpoint, if we put the conventional viewpoint as first, then it will be negated. And who is the negator? Real viewpoint. And if we put the real viewpoint first and the conventional viewpoint second, then real viewpoint would be the subject explained and conventional would be the explainer. Okay, so that is being discussed here. The relation between the subject explained and the explainer. So subject explained is the pratipadya. Okay, and who is the pratipadak? The conventional explainer. Okay, for the establishment of the real, the use of the convention is necessary. If one does not employ the convention, the object cannot be understood. Therefore, real is the subject explained, conventional is the explainer. For example, the role of the convention is to explain distinction and impart knowledge of association. It explains distinction even within an indivisible entity and imparts knowledge of association. Yet, while explaining the distinction, it still explains the indivisible substance. And while explaining the association, it still explains the unassociated elements. That is the tattva. Therefore, it is called the establishing agent of the real. So, conventional is an establishing agent of the real. In this manner, the relationship of the subject of explained and the explainer exists in reality and conventional respectively. Subject explained is the real viewpoint and the explainer is the conventional viewpoint. Now we will reverse the role. Relationship of negated and negator. The role of real is to negate convention. What is the role of real? To negate convention. Hence, conventional viewpoint is the negated and real viewpoint is the negator. Okay. Just as cloth cannot be cleaned without washing out the soap. So first we have to apply the soap, okay, to clean the clothes. And after a certain time, we have to remove the soap to get the clean clothes. Okay. In the same way, the pure soul, that is the subject of real, cannot be realized without negating convention. Okay. When through the convention, the complete establishment of the real has been attained, then in order to transcend the conventional viewpoint, it is prohibited, it is negated. For without relinquishing the conventional, the real cannot be realized. Is the significance of the conventional viewpoint contained in this prohibition? Is the significance of the conventional viewpoint contained in this prohibition? This is the question being asked. 1 minute. Huh?
Sir,
Uh,
should I scroll further? Sorry.
no
So
problem.
somebody's come home.
No problem. You can
Suddenly.
you can leave if you want to leave. No problem. You can stop sharing. No problem.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. So the question is asked, is the significance of conventional viewpoint contained in this prohibition? Yes. The role of the real viewpoint is to negate the conventional. And the role of the conventional viewpoint is to get you towards the real viewpoint. This is inherent nature of these two viewpoints. Okay, there is nothing wrong in it. Like as I said in the example, to cross the river you have to board the boat. So boarding the boat is a conventional statement. Okay, and when you reach the other side you have to leave the boat. Very simple. Okay, so you have to leave the conventional statement. You have to leave the conventional viewpoint to get to the real viewpoint. So what is the job of real viewpoint? The job of the real viewpoint is to negate the conventional viewpoint. What is the job of the conventional viewpoint? To take you towards the real viewpoint. Thus, between the convention and real, there exists the relation of negated and negator, and subject explained and explainer. Both the relationship exist. Okay. When we say subject explained, it is the real viewpoint. Explainer is the conventional viewpoint. The negated is the conventional viewpoint. Who is the negator? Negator is the real viewpoint. So this is itself, it's their nature. Okay. There is nothing wrong in it. You can say the boat who has carried us up to here, why should we leave the boat? Then if you don't leave the boat, you don't reach your destination. Right. So to reach the destination, you have to cross the river, you have to use the boat. But when the other side comes, you have to leave the boat also and reach your destination. So conventional viewpoint does this job of it takes you towards the real viewpoint. And what real viewpoint does? Real viewpoint negates the conventional viewpoint. Okay. If it does not negate the real conventional viewpoint, you will not be able to reach the destination. Right. So both are justified, both are doing their job. The total description is only possible when we use both the viewpoint. If we say I will only use the conventional viewpoint, then also you will not get the comprehensive picture. And if you use only the real viewpoint, you will not get the comprehensive picture. So both viewpoints are necessary in understanding the nature of substance. Okay. And both viewpoints has its place in the knowledge. Okay. In the comprehensive knowledge, both viewpoints are there. One is made primary at one point of time, others are made secondary. At some other time, something else is made primary and the rest becomes secondary. So by using this methodology of making one thing primary, rest secondary, when we are making next secondary, we are not denying it. It is there, but right now we are not discussing it. We are not talking anything about that. So this is how in our knowledge we use these viewpoints time and again, okay, to reach to the ultimate destination. So when we manifest omniscience knowledge, then viewpoints are not required. Okay. So up till and until we reach the destination of omniscience knowledge, keval gyan, to that time, to that extent, we will be using the conventional viewpoint and real viewpoint time and again. Okay. But when we achieve the omniscience knowledge, then there are no viewpoints required, because now we are knowing everything at simultaneously. Nothing is hidden from us. Okay. So no viewpoints are required at that point of time. Okay. So we have discussed conventional viewpoint today. Next class, we will be discussing the real viewpoint. And after finishing real viewpoint, we will have a comparison between real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint. And there are 18 points. We are going to cover that in the next class. So if you are able to read those through and remember it, it will be very nice. Okay. Little bit of language problem is there in like, we are very used to nischay nahi and vyavhar nahi, because we are familiar with that terms. This real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint does not sound that much good, but over a period of time with practice and study again and again, this will also become normal. Like we in Hindi, we have been using Hindi since birth, right? So now we are using this English terminology, but over a period of time, this will also become natural. Okay. Now it is being, uh, it's, there is some difficulty in expressing the terms, but with practice, it will also become easy. Okay. So next class, we will read the real viewpoint and then the comparison between the real viewpoint and conventional viewpoint, these 18 points. You read and come, you try to rememberize this. I'm also trying to rememberize, because this is at a glance, you have the total viewpoints, okay, conventional and real viewpoint. So two scenarios, one from the conventional viewpoint, one from the real viewpoint. So when you know both the scenarios, then it becomes easy for you to switch over. Okay. So a situation may be, some scenario may be explained from the conventional, but at that time you have to apply the real viewpoint to practice discriminative knowledge. Okay. So both of viewpoints are necessary and to understand the nature of substance. Okay. So see you next week with the real viewpoint and the difference between real and conventional viewpoint. I'll try to bring in examples for each so that it becomes easy to understand. Okay. And you also have the Hindi textbook with you, right? So that also you can read simultaneously. So what? Yeah.
ये परम प्रभावक नए चक्र बाय हुकुमचंद भारेल वो
नहीं,
है
वो नहीं
किताब।
है, ये है
ओहो,
नई चक्र गाइड. This is a Hindi
अच्छा
book.
हाँ,
I'll
या
share the picture, okay, in the
हाँ,
group. So
अच्छा,
that you must be having at home, this
या
book.
आई थिंक वी हैव इट, बहुत
Yeah.
पहले ही दे दिया गया था ना।
हाँ, right.
यस, तो फिर ये क्या है सर, ये इनका हुकुमचंद भारेल का, व्हाट इज इट ऑल?
उसमें से ये अडप्ट किया है. So
ओहो,
originally that was the book, but it's
राइट,
such a big book.
ओहो,
So
हाँ,
this small book has been made as a guide, and
अच्छा,
we are teaching through this book only right now. Okay.
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू
Okay.
सर।
निज
ये जो, ओके
हाँ
ओके, नहीं फिनिश इट, यू फिनिश इट।
हाँ. निज निधि निज में बताई, यह अनंत उपकार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना सत बार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना